Hello everyone and welcome to Sunup. I'm Lyndall Stout. Oklahoma producers getting ready to plant wheat should be on the lookout for fall armyworms. Joining us now is Tom Royer, our extension entomologist. And Tom, we just got out here in the field and you spotted some armyworms right away.
I did. I've had several calls from people that said they went out to a field that they were getting ready to plant and they could go out and see armyworms laying around waiting, maybe waiting for them to plant and for the wheat to come up, and that's exactly what we did out here. What I told them is that a lot of times at the edge of a field where we have all this grass, they're already out there and they can move in. Fall armyworms don't necessarily like to plant in a bare field with no food, but they can move in from all the grassy areas around. And when the wheat's just coming up out of the ground, it's really important for producers to watch and make sure they don't have an early infestation, because that can really delay their grazing potential of their wheat, or just outright kill it.
Give us an idea of what to look for.
Well, I just happen to have one right here. It's hungry, obviously, because it's already produced some frass in my hand, but this is about the size that you don't want to see them get any bigger than this, because once they start getting a little bit bigger, they're very capable of eating a lot of plant material, and and they're also a lot less susceptible to insecticides as they are when they're little. So we always say if they're less than a ½ inch long, that's when you want to be out spraying for them. But you need to go out and scout for them as well. Don't just assume that they're out there, because you want to be able to use the insecticide effectively.
So management-wise, that's the first step.
Yes, and it's pretty easy to sample for them. Just get down, look at a square foot area. I think our threshold's around 2 per square foot, 2 to 3 per square foot, both in pastures and wheat. So if anybody wants to make sure that they have some pasture hay for fall that they're going to harvest for fall, they need to be checking for fall armyworms as well.
And then in terms of the treatment, what do you recommend?
There's a lot of insecticides that are registered for fall armyworm control. Fairly inexpensive, and they're pretty effective as long as you're applying them to the tiny caterpillars. Once they get big, they're a lot harder to kill. And with the weather we've had this year, this should be, unlike last year, we should have a better opportunity to get control of them.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about soybeans. That crop is maturing, and you're getting some questions as well.
Just before we filmed this, I had 2 questions on soybean caterpillars that are defoliating the soybeans. A lot of times, if the soybeans are in the flowering to pod set time, that's a very critical time to avoid defoliation. Our thresholds go down quite a bit during that period of time because they're a lot more sensitive to yield loss. So in that case, we suggest 15 to 20% defoliation is about all you can really tolerate in soybeans. With there's a kind of a suite of 3 or 4 caterpillars that like to chew on soybeans, and you just got to make sure that the caterpillars are out there and you have the correct amount of defoliation to make that decision.
Okay, so that's the guidance there.
That's the guidance. Right now, 15 to 20%. When I talk to a producer about going out and sampling soybeans, it's always important to take leaves from the top, middle, and bottom of the canopy, because a lot of insects like to be on the top, and if you just were to pick leaves off the top, you'd think you had a lot of defoliation. But that plant, if they have intact leaves in the middle and bottom that aren't defoliated, you can average that defoliation out and then get the correct amount. And that's what happens with a lot of producers that aren't used to it. They see the top leaves and they get really panicky, but there's really, a lot of times there's not much, nearly as much defoliation as they think there is.
And then in terms of treatment, are there some options at this stage?
Absolutely. It's the same as with wheat. There's a wide variety of insecticides that are effective. One of the things to keep in mind is that they need to make sure that they still have caterpillars out there, because green cloverworms in particular are very susceptible to diseases, and you can watch a population crash really quickly and that means you're not going to have defoliation anymore.
And you covered all this in your latest newsletter?
Yes, we have, and they're sent out to our county extension educators, and they're available for anybody to read.
Okay, terrific, Tom. Thanks a lot. Okay. And for a link to Tom's newsletter, which goes into more depth, go to sunup.okstate.edu.